Working on this 2008 Mercury Mariner. It's got 3-liter in it, and this is a recording of the crank sensor signal using the Vantage waveform viewer. It's Heritage Vantage, and this is just a recording of 10 screens on it. Just wanted to show that as we go through here that there is a cutout where you got a signature signal. The PCM uses that to start its injunction sequence and timing for spark and all that good stuff. So this here is a known good pattern on it. And this is a little bit high on amplitude because it was running at a high idle. As the faster the vehicle is, the more signal this produces. So believe this thing has a bad crank sensor. Going to let it run here. Been running about 5 minutes so far. This is paused at the beginning of just starting it up, and basically going to see if it dies, loses the RPM signal on it, have a new Ford crank sensor going to put in and see if that corrects it. On the same 2008 Mercury Mariner, however it's pronounced, the 3-liter, also looking at codes, going to tie in with scan data. Previously on the prior visit it had a PO320, which is typical a lot of times of crank sensors. It has not reset. Just want to show this on an enhanced data. Fords, when all the monitors are not run, there's a P1000, which is typical of somebody either clearing the codes or having a battery that lost its charge or things of that sort. So good idea if you're checking a vehicle to do an enhanced scan and see if it has a P1000, because that means all the monitors aren't complete, and why that happened is always a good question to figure that out. So going to have the tie into the scan data now and going to wait for this vehicle to die. Okay, the vehicle just died like somebody shut off the key. I'm tied in here with both the Vantage. I lowered the trigger point on it, so if we got any signal we should see it. And we're also looking at the RPM graph on the scan tool. So let's crank it and see if we have anything going on here. Okay, so there's no signal on the crank sensor or at the other. So I'm going to unhook the PCM connector and see what the resistance is, but I suspect it heated up and it opened up. Okay, so here's our resistance of the PCM connector unplugged that we're back probed into. And before we were running right about 0.3 on the kilo ohm scale, so that means it was about 300. And if you look at it, we're right about 500, and the range that it's supposed to be isn't too far off from that. But if you look and see, the resistance is changing all over the place. So apparently this thing probably doesn't have a good connection internally. So I'm going to go ahead and take the old crank sensor out, put the new Ford one in there, and see what we have. Okay, have the new crank sensor in, getting ready to start it up and see what we have. Here we go. Let's check and see. Alright, always verify your connections. I didn't have the PCM connector plugged back in, but before I do that, let's actually go and check the resistance while we're tied in. Hang on just a second. Alright, so we're going to go out of here. Multimeter. Okay, so these also have problems with the connectors as well. I was planning to go and replace the connector as well, so it looks like I'm going to have to do that first. 2008 Mercury Marina, however it is pronounced. Got the crank sensor in, got the wiring repair done, got the PCM connector in, gonna fire it up and see what we got. Alright, there we go. Got a good crank signal, got a good RPM signal. So we'll let it run for about the same time, make sure we're fixed, and we'll go from there. Have a splash cover to put back on underneath, but we're doing okay.